Welcome to the Bree Pod. And here with me, Bree. So last time we spoke, it was my husband's birthday, and we had a really good time. We went and saw Cirque du Soleil, um, Alegria, and it was amazing. We had front row seats, basically, well, second row seats, and everything was super close up. Really cool to see. The only thing that was kind of hard to see is when they were in the air. Um, you kind of had to really look up. But otherwise, it was really good and loved the music. Loved everything about uh, Cirque du Soleil. So we had a great time. Jeremy had a cappuccino cake, which was super delicious. And we went berry picking over the weekend. We went hiking. And then we trying to think of what else. Did some housework and so on. And right now, been working on um, basically getting the baby's clothes together and just getting the room together. We did get pretty far with that too, so that's been pretty awesome as well. So we knew that this episode was going to be intense because we're going to be discussing Roe versus Wade. Um, I am not here to upset anybody, but at the same time, I am here to give the facts and help an opinion based as well, because, with all of us, we all have an opinion based on what we see. So I don't like to label myself a certain pro um, terminology. I like to say that I'm pro women and I'm pro women's rights. When it comes to abortion itself, I don't think that I have the right to make someone else's choice for them. And I know that a lot of people think, well, that means that you're a baby killer. I think that many of you, that if you think very logically speaking, that's a very black and white statement to say about somebody, uh, especially since many of you know me well enough to know that I've been trying to have a baby for so long. It took me forever to get to this place, and I would never, ever be someone that wants a child to die. And neither do the people that I talk to that have had an abortion. It wasn't a decision they made or took lightly. It's not that it was my business, but even with their decision, it wasn't like, oh, they hate children and, you know, they're killing off these babies for fun with the way that some of the people make it sound out there. Um, if anything, there were very hard decisions and choices to make that they had to choose, and they had that right to make that decision. And people should have the right to make a decision when it comes to their own health and especially reproductive rights. The reason why I am completely for women is because I have endometriosis, I have fibroids, I have fought the medical um, system when it comes to gaslighting from the medical realm. I have had to talk to many doctors, many OBGYNs, because of the lack of knowledge that's out there. And it's not to say that it's not out there. It's just when you're new to all these um, things that are going on with your body, and even the doctors are not fully sure. They have an idea, but they're not sure. It can be very frustrating because it's a long line of finding answers, finding out where it's coming from, where's the problem, and then finding a solution. It took me 10 years to get the actual results that I had endometriosis, because I was told either it was just a bad period or that I was basically making it up in my head. Um, and a lot of things, you start to, you want to, you want to believe the people that had put in the many hours into schooling and stuff and doctors. You want to believe that they have your best interests. And I think that they try. Not everybody, of course, I'm not talking about all doctors or all nurses, all this or that. I'm just saying that to get to that answer, it shouldn't have taken 10 years. The reason why I bring this up is because it goes back to how Roe versus Wade can affect um, women's rights when it comes to our health and our right to privacy. Roe versus Wade was more than just a case um, that protected abortion. It actually had other underlying um, rights that it protected. Roe, many of you may know this, but when it comes to the law, when you have um, a court case, a lot of times previous court cases, especially within the Supreme Court, um, are going to be brought into the current case that's going on to help show why the decision should be made the way that it is. And Roe was used many times. Um, it's not to say that Roe versus Wade was the only court case out there that protected everything. But Roe versus Wade had a lot of aspects to their case that help protect different forms of rights to people. So even if you believe or do not believe in the abortion aspect of it, there are rights that affect you as well. Not all of them, but definitely a few. And I went to get, of course, a fact sheet. It is well versed and well cited. It's from the National Women's Law Center. It was made and published back in August 2018. And it talks about the different rights that Roe versus Wade had protected. So I'm going to share a couple of these things uh, that I found and read some of them. Um, so as I'm trying to kind of show is that Roe versus Wade did far more than establish rights to abortion. It solidified and expanded the constitutional right to privacy, which has also been described as the right to autonomy or to be let alone. This right to privacy is part of the right to liberty protected by the Fifth and Fourteenth Amendments, which state that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Constitution's protection of liberty and privacy underlies the Supreme Court's recognition of fundamental rights related to contraception and procreation, marriage, family relations, child rearing, and intimacy. Although the Supreme Court's recognition of the right to privacy predates Roe, Roe is an important affirmation of and foundation for a broad array of privacy rights. While not exclusively dependent on Roe, Roe influenced privacy principles in each of these areas and principles that could be undermined if the Supreme Court overturned Roe. So what they're saying is that if you're trying to use Roe as an example to help uh, you know, show the right to privacy, they could say, well, it was overturned. So now you have to go do your research and hope you can find another huge case that can back up what you're trying to fight for and support it. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but in the law world, and this is not, again, side note, I'm just a paralegal. But I'm not, as I share what I'm sharing, it's not from a paralegal standpoint because I'm not allowed to give um, any advice toward the law, but as a citizen who can read about the law, this is me sharing the law side of why Roe versus Wade is so important. I do understand the big debate on should a baby be terminated or should a baby not? And it's much deeper than that. But I'm not really going to go down that route because I think there's a lot of people that are very set in their ways, set in what they believe in. That is all okay. That's what's human right to ourselves. That's the freedom. Um, but when it comes to this, I'm showing the other ways Roe versus Wade affects other people outside of the abortion side of it. Um, and also, I will add my side note of this. This is something that I have to say because I keep seeing it everywhere, and I think it's very offensive, especially to those. And I know that you don't care about the offense to people, but it's very offensive to people that have had to make the very hard decision of having an abortion to say that they hated babies, to say that are baby killers, to attack them. You do not know these people. You do not know why they did what they did. And I personally was in your shoes. I know that when I was younger, I thought that I only looked at abortion from a black or white view. And I'm not talking about race, I am talking about our, when it comes to decisions, you're either left or you're right. I don't agree with that. I think there's a lot of gray. I think that's why I personally do not really sit with a party. I'm not Republican. I'm not liberal. I'm not conservative. I'm not whatever the other one is. I do not associate as a party. I associate as beliefs and just watching what that political person has to offer, which usually, in the end, really, when it comes to the big politics, it goes back to power and money, right? So, but I still, I do have a quote unquote party so that I can vote, and I just don't vote one party or the other. And I didn't have to share that, but I share that because that's how I look at life. It is the same with the abortion. I don't think that you can look at it just left or right, right or wrong, because there's so much gray area. Of course, I understand there is the background of what your religion is and what you believe in that case. And I'm not taking that out. I don't think that you should not be able to believe in your religious rights. I just feel that we should not make decisions for other people. I don't think that we have that right. I think at the end, it's kind of shocking for some of you, I'm sure, to hear. I do believe in God. I do pray, um, but I don't believe that I have the right to judge someone else in their decisions when it comes to reproductive rights. And I know that that is a huge debate in the world of religion. But I'm not God and I'm not going to play God. And I get that there are many scriptures out there that say that you have the right to judge or whatever, but for me, it's just not my kind of thing, not my cup of tea. The main concern that I have, though, is women's rights and women's health. And the reason being is because I am a woman and because I know what it's like to have to fight for your health. And when you have something like this being taken away and overturned and controlling our rights with our own reproductive systems, that becomes a very personal hit. Um, I understand that the law does not, because I had been sharing how an ectopic pregnancy can be scary, and there are actually some people out there that really believe that that's an abortion, even though the baby has already passed. I know that the law doesn't state that that's an abortion, but it's the problem is not just the fact that the law said it or didn't say it. The problem is that because our laws are not just a crystal cut clear thing, especially in the states. Every state has their own determination of what they want to take from the law. Hence, that's why some states are for it, some states are against it, right? They get to choose. And that's where it becomes an issue because if you are in a state that is strict and does not uh, abide, not abide, but does not agree with the, um, whew, does not agree with it, or sorry, the pregnancy brain man, um, that does not agree with Roe versus Wade, or I don't want to say doesn't agree. The states that agree with the overturning, those are the states where we're going to have issues because now there's going to be doctors and health professionals that are afraid to lose their job, that are afraid to get go to jail, that are going to kind of, I don't want to say waste time. It's not that they're trying to waste time. It's that they're going to be trying to figure out what is okay for that uh, certain state, what's not okay for that, and that can lead to issues because a woman that goes in there that needs immediate medical care is not going to receive that medical care instantly because you have to go through all the the many little divots to find out, is it okay or is it not okay? Even though the law doesn't say that an ectopic pregnancy is an abortion, it doesn't mean that it's not perceived or confused when it gets down to the actual decision. Do I help this girl or this woman, or should, or am I going to get in trouble? So that is why for me it's important to know that, like, it's not just a simple black and white answer. And again, when I say black and white, I'm not talking about race. I'm merely talking about left or right, right or wrong, right? Like the very distinct, this is it. And unfortunately, I feel like we live in a world where we're constantly one way or the other, and there's just a lot of gray that is there. And so back to this, the reason why I bring this up is because Roe versus Wade affected more people than just um, people that uh, had abortions. It affects people that, for example, it affected same-sex couples for getting married, same-sex couples for having consensual sex, uh, same, um, which I know from a religious aspect, there are certain religions that do not care about that part, but that it still affects people that, many of you know somebody that is in a same sex relationship that I'm sure you love dearly who was affected. Um, and what was great is that because the law worked where you could go back and use the case as your foundation to prove your case for whatever it was, um, Roe had protected the right to marry, Roe protected the right to intimacy. It also affects people that had or looked for the right to make decisions about how to rear one's children. So this doesn't even, if you want to take out the religious aspect, this doesn't even affect your religious portion of your beliefs. This affects your parental rights. And what Roe did is what it says is that the parents' rights to raise their children according to their preference is another privacy right, which, as you're going to learn, Roe protected privacy rights in its own route as well. And the Supreme Court relied on Roe as an important support for the proposition that a person's decision whether to bear a child and a parent's decision concerning the manner in which his child to be educated may fairly be characterized as exercises of familial rights and responsibilities, and thus protected by the Constitution. While these rights related to parental decision making were recognized before Roe, Roe relied on and strengthened the underlying principle that parenting is best when free from unwarranted government intrusions. And that's the thing, again, to remember that when you are in court, again, this is as a citizen that just read about the law. Um, when you are in court, you want to have these very strong cases to back you up to help win your case because when it comes to your parental rights of raising a child, you should be able to have the preference of how you raise your child. You should not be told how to raise your child. And then it goes with the right to intimacy. You should not be told who you can and cannot be with. Just like the right to marry, you should not be told how you can or cannot marry. Now, yes, there is the religion portion of that, but when it comes to the law, um, let's say you just made it a straight person with a straight person, how would you feel if you were told the right on who, if like, especially for those of you that are in beautiful relationships right now, and you were told you can't marry them because the government said so. Like, I don't want you to marry them. There's so much gray area, and Roe protected more people than just women, and um, the privacy rights is my main uh, thing that scares me the most. For example, we have the right to personal control of medical treatment. The privacy right also includes the right to make medical decisions. For example, the Supreme Court in 1990, influenced by Roe and the liberty interest doctrine, extended the privacy right to include the ability to appoint a healthcare proxy and refuse unwanted medical treatment. The Supreme Court later confirmed that Roe recognized the importance of receiving medical intervention. And um, among the fundamental liberties protected by the right to privacy, subsequent cases protecting the right to marry have relied on Roe. So there are lots of ways Roe has helped cases and helped um, give that foundation to protect rights. And it goes back to it's more than just abortion. It protects the rights to marriage, procreation, contraception, family relationships, child rearing, and intimacy. Um, and for me, the most important is the right to privacy, especially when it comes to your medical decisions. Now, obviously, Roe versus Wade is not the only thing that protects those privacy rights, but you have to think of it as like a main umbrella. Okay, you've got a main umbrella of what it. Sorry, the dog's just like whatever. You have a main umbrella of what Roe versus Wade had protected, and then when you take that umbrella out, it's like, okay, what else are we open to now? What else can they take away from us Because if they felt that that could be taken, other things that are huge can be taken. And it does affect more than just um, abortion. That's the thing that I think we have to understand about Roe versus Wade. It had and about many court cases. It's not like it's just one topic and that's it. Certain decisions based in a court case, especially in when it comes to Supreme Court, can it kind of is like the domino effect to other cases in different manners. So, for example, of us talking about how it could affect how you raise your child, how or maintaining family relationships. Like one of these was talking about how the there was a case in which a grandma wanted to live with her grandson, and the state wanted to interfere. So they brought in Roe as an example as to why it's okay um, that you know, sorry, whew, it's okay for the privacy and protection of a family relationship. Um, so the thing is, there's more. It's not just a one or the other. There's so much gray. And I know that there's probably some people that have already popped off this podcast episode, and that's okay. At the end of the day, it's scary because like Roe had been used as an umbrella to help more than just one case and that had one subject. Um, and then there's also the aspect of the way people perceive or the way the perception of the law is by state, what's okay, what's not okay, goes into question. And this starts to affect the people that really are in dire need of help when it comes into the medical realm. When they need help right now, you can't really have your doctor wondering, oh, am I going to go to jail if I help her? Even if the law, I know that it sounds so simple, like, oh, well, the law says this isn't abortion, so therefore it's okay. It does not work like that. It is all up for debate, your perception of it. I mean, just look at the Bible, for example. There are many people that can read one passage and get different uh, perspectives of what they felt they read or heard. And I'm not, again, I'm not attacking religion. I'm just showing you how, even with a song, let's just use something simple as a song that you're listening to. People can interpret that song in the different manner. And that's what it is about the law. The law can be interpreted in different ways depending on your state, depending on your political leaders, depending on all the above. So it does affect more than people think it does. And people are getting affected right now by this. And when it comes to your human rights and your own body, you should be able to have the right of what you choose to do with it. Does it mean that people will um like back everything that you do for yourself? I mean, do when it comes to the drugs that people put into their body, the alcohol people consume, you go on this list. Are you going to approve of everything that people do? No. Not everybody's going to approve of that, but you don't get that right to make the decision, even if it is the most controversial decision, because it's not your body and it's not your place. Now, again, I know it goes back to deeper. I understand that in the religious realm, in my beliefs, I'm going to be questioned if I believe in God or don't believe in God because of the way that I look at things. But at the end of the day, it goes back to your human right of what you choose for yourself. And after living some life, I have seen why certain people have had to do what they had to do. I'm not saying that I'm supportive of um, everything that's out there, but there's so much gray when it comes to this topic. There's so much that's deeper than just a left or a right or wrong. And I wish that we could recognize that more when it comes to how people feel. Um, because, I mean, I can't say that there'd be less fighting because there's always going to be the very, like, determined person on each side. But I just wish that we were more open to the aspect of the gray areas of life because a lot of things are gray. And for some reason, we believe that we need to either bleed a certain party, um, and that's the way. And for me, I'm just not going to live that way. I don't bleed a certain party. I bleed for the people, I guess. I don't believe in the whole red versus blue thing. I think that that's really extreme, but that's also just my opinion. That doesn't mean that what I think is correct. That's the beauty of having, you know, our rights. It's the beauty of the freedom that we have. So I am sharing this episode. If you made it this far, thank you. If you didn't, understandably so. I don't expect everybody to agree. I'm not asking you to agree. I'm not going to fight you to bring you to my side. And I'm not here to hurt or take out anybody. I just think that it's important to talk about because at the end of the day, the pre-pod was based off of my infertility background. It was based off of my background with endometriosis. And now I've learned that I have fibroids. So um, it's about women's health and fighting for those rights. And this particular um, court case affects more than just one subject. This affects a bit of privacy. It's not the only thing. Yes, we have HIPAA. Yes, there are other court cases, but it still is leads a domino trail because I'm going to share the article that I was reading from. All of those cases that were mentioned had an extra chance of winning due to the foundation of Roe. Um, so it's just important to know, especially when it comes to overturning things like this, of how it can affect more than just the surface level. And I know you're going to think, well, how can you make it surface level when it's about hurting a child? But it's not. It's not that it's a again, it's not a black and white uh, answer. There's just so much behind it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I am sad that it was overturned. I do. I'm sad because I don't think that we should lose our rights to what we choose with our body. Um, I think that it's it's going to be something that we're going to have to fight for. Um, and there's going to be a lot of people that you know are upset, but at the end of the day, it's just the part of being human. You get to have your view, you get to have your opinion, and so this is mine. It's not going to be accepted by all, and that's okay. Um, it's not meant to be. It's just I can't. not share why. It affects me as a woman. It scares me um, because of the fact that I am pregnant and I have suffered a lot of these medical. I'm not the only one. There's other people that have suffered with these medical constraints in life, and it's scary to know what if something were to happen and I was in a state, and I mean a literal state, not like in a state of mind, but the state um, that needed to question and be like, I'm not sure. Let me go through all these um, things before I go forth. That's so much time wasted, especially if you have been in the medical realm when it comes to the reproductive system. Sometimes you don't have time. Sometimes they need to hurry up and make a quick decision, just like in any other medical um, life-threatening situation. You need a quick answer. You can't have, let's go down the phone tree to find out. And so it's so much deeper than that. So that is my take on it. Um, I apologize for those of you that are like, "Girl, you're talking in circles." It's a huge topic, and I'm also pregnant, so it's kind of hard to talk these days. But um, thank you for again for those of you that stayed with me this whole time. Um, as you know, I must end with the beautiful mantra that I will always believe in, no matter what. And know that if you leave this episode, I hope that you leave with this, which is you are worthy, you are loved, you are cherished, and I am proud of you.